Hi, this is Psychic Frank, PF, Psychic Frank, and this episode here of the Mystery School series is called Holy Terror. I don't think this is going to be picked up here. Uh, I do a cable access TV show here in San Francisco, the second and the fourth Thursday of every month. Happy September 2016. This is a great month. Every month is a great month, but this one because we started off with a solar eclipse on the 1st. Today, September 4th, Sunday. And then on the 16th, we have a lunar eclipse. And then on the 10th is the third and final Saturn squared and Neptune. Neptune, the dissolver, the spirit. Neptune spiritualizes, and Saturn's the structure. So we're seeing dissolve. We're seeing barriers dissolving. It's beautiful, beautiful time to be around. Yeah, it's intense. It's couldn't be more intense. Oh, so Mercury's retrograde now. It's inner time. So I was saying, my next show on cable access TV. It's here in San Francisco. If you have Comcast, you can go to sfc.tv, and then it's channel 76 and channel 29. Now, channels those are the two cable access shows. Comcast, for some reason, quit tagging the shows, so you have to go check the schedules. But at 7:30 on Saturdays on channel 29. But you can get all my shows on YouTube now. So this one is called. So this Thursday, yeah, my live shows on channel 76 this Thursday, California time, 5 o'clock. You could call in. Gabby, come here. I have a parrot, and I just shut off the TV, and she's very upset because she likes watching her Sunday morning shows. Yeah, come on. Yeah, honey, come over here and join us. Okay, so I can't really get into a lot of things I'd like to get into on my TV show at BAVAC, Bay Area Video Coalition, because it's only 52 minutes and people call in. Although the phones have been under repair. I haven't had many calls, but hopefully that'll be remedied when I get to the studio this Thursday, and people could call in and get a free sample of what I do. And I use a combination of numerology and astrology. I'm a psychic, and it's not original. A lot of the people who taught me years ago did that, and I realized it works for me, so I copy that, and I do that. It's been doing this now almost going on 35 years. That's enough, Gabby. Come on. So, okay, what we're going to do today, because we have time, this is my man cave here. This is, as they say, and I'm in Hayes Valley, San Francisco, and we're gonna learn something today. We're gonna open our heart chakras. Take a nice clearing, grounding breath. Drop our grounding cords. Tug them. Give them a good tug. Make sure they're all. I like in the center of the earth. We have like little receptacles, like cast iron. I visualize, and then I drop my silver cord down there, and I give it a tug. I look for the PF, Psychic Frank, and I give it a big tug, and I'm here. I am. Remember, you're constantly making affirmations. You want to keep them in two tenses. I am and I have. And one mind. OM. Om. One mind. So, okay. Now, this lecture is called Holy Terror. Terror. And it's a forward to a book by. Oh, I wrote it down here so I wouldn't forget it. Yeah, well, Kumar. Kumar. It's called The Buddha and the Terrorist, and it came out in. I make notes and then I misplace my notes. Oh God. So anyway, it was came out in I believe April of 2006, post 9/11, of course. To me, the whole world, everything changed. That's when Pluto, uh, not an everyday event, went around the wheel and transited America's rising sign, which is our ascendant, Sagittarius. And this is in a book. It's a little small book, and But the forward. This is one of those books. No offense to the author, Mr. Satari there, but it's this is one of those, in my humble opinion, where the forward totally upstages the book. I mean, it's a good book, but this forward. Well, you'll see what I mean. I'm gonna read it right now. So let's clear all the energy now. Take a nice clearing breath. It's called Holy Terror by Thomas More, and it's the forward to a book called The Buddha and the Terrorist. It says, it is often said accurately. Oh, yeah, one more thing I want to get out of the way. That way I don't have to repeat this anymore, because my show, I could tell people, well, you go on YouTube and look for the Holy Terror episode, show, and this is it. Okay, now I'll read. Yeah, this is, and I'll throw in a few my little comments as we go along. I hope it doesn't color it too much. I hope my intent is to enhance it. It is often said accurately that violence begets violence. Let's get some better coloring around here. Okay, that's better. It is often said accurately that violence begets violence. There is a virus buried deep in all violence that is contagious. It inspires an equally brutal and mindless response. A terrorist blows up a bus and an army comes to settle the score. This exchange of violence and this contagion of terror have been handed down for eons, from family to family, from nation to nation. It is a chain of terror made up of people gone amok with anger and those just as disturbed by their feelings of virtue and righteous vengeance. Yeah, this thing about this sports figure here in California is making national history. This young man, Colin Kaepernick or something, I can't remember his name, I'm not really a sports freak. I'm American, but I don't follow sports. I'm busy doing healings for the masses here. But there is, so I thought this was the best time ever to get this out there. But here's the good news. He talks about all these gospels of Jesus, Buddha, the Tao of Lao Tzu, the Tariqa, the love of Sufism that all teach you you can let go of your grip on this chain. You can be free of it. When obscene violence interrupts your life, you don't have to respond with virtuous, justified, and reasonable force. You can choose not to be part of the destructive cycle, and that is the choice. And that choice is not to participate is the first step. Yeah, I'm not going to participate in this. What if they gave a war and nobody showed up? They used to say that in the 60s when I was coming up. But to step outside the circle of terror, you have to do something quite unreasonable. You have to forfeit vengeance and abandon all reasonable expectations that the majority of your community, friends, and family may take granted. See, this is what the sports guy, Colin, is figuring out now. Yeah, it says you have to forfeit vengeance and abandon all reasonable expectations that the majority of your community, friends, and family may take you for granted. You will probably have to go it alone and trust your spiritual instincts. You may appear passive and weak. Only you know the inner courage needed to overcome habits of vengeance and punishment that are assumed to be rights and virtuous. You need spiritual instincts. Yogananda talked a lot about our instincts. We don't trust our spiritual instincts. I do a lot of shows on that. You need your spiritual instincts, because the way out of violence depends a great deal on a penetrating vision. You have to understand radically that terrorism of all kinds is an insanity, whether it is the work of a band of renegades or the more sanctioned and public action of an army. Whew. You have to understand that violence, even when calculated, is the expression of a pained and a twisted soul. It is the work of a spirit or urge that takes over a person or a people that blinds them to human solidarity and community. Your job in the spirit of the Buddha, Jesus, is to claim the souls of everyone involved. Now, this is really key here. Now we're going to get some knowledge about history. At the root, the word terror, quote unquote, means to quiver or tremble like a bird in the hand or a leaf in the wind on a tree. It is more than fear. Essentially, it is a profound awareness of the power of life itself. A psalm from the Bible says, quote unquote, the Lord, Gabby, we're busy here. The Lord Most High is terrible. Where are we now? Okay. Yeah, the Lord Most High is terrible. And at the consecration of a church, the choir sings, "Terrible is this place." This is in the old terrible, the ancient word, the usage for this, medieval word, usage for this, terrible and terror have different forms of the same word. The Lord, the source of life, truly inspires terror because life is so mysterious and overwhelming, because it offers so much vitality and so much death. Whew. According to a classic definition, and this is in Latin, mysterium, tremendous fascination. It is a mystery that makes you tremble and fascinates you. The ultimate terror is a stark realization of the holiness and awesomeness of life. Yeah, September 19th, 1982 is when I was close to death, and I was in the middle of the night. I got up and walked by these windows, and I went like this and looked out the window, and I got sucked up out of my crown chakra, and I was God. I was one. I was one. Like they asked Matt Baba if he was God. They said, "You think you're God?" And he laughed in their face. And he said, "Who else could I be?" Well, I was very aware, each and every one of us. I just happened to really understand that day. What did it say? Before enlightenment, chop would carry water. After enlightenment, chop would carry water. Life goes on, but I know I was there. And I saw this little twinkling in the sky. What is that? And then I was grateful. I remember putting out that gratitude. Uh, yeah, like Toll. Toll said, uh, that gratitude is a gateway into spiritual dimensions. Yeah, and I just felt so loved, and that I was and we all are, each and every one of us, no matter what shape you're in, are a very necessary part of this amazing, beautiful whole. There used to be trans channelers way back in the, well, not way back, but in the 80s, it was the rage, it seemed, and there was a lot of fakes out there. But there was one, Pat Rodegeist, and she wrote these books, Emmanuel 1 and 2. And I read them over and over again. The books come and I never keep them. I always buy them and give them away. And then when I need them again, I have to go to the library or get them again. But I don't know. I just have to pass all this. Hi, Gabby. I have to pass all this knowledge about. But Emmanuel is giving this lecture through Pat, and he's talking about how beautiful the universe is. You know, he's talking about it's a beautiful monologue. Passage, and the cynic in the back of the room raises his hand. He says, yeah, that's a beautiful thought. And Emmanuel said, the universe is a beautiful thought. I love that stuff. So he says, so life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. It is a mystery that makes you tremble and fascinate you. So when I came to, it was broad daylight, and I was in a fetal position, shaking, and I wiped my tears away from my face, and I went right to the phone, and I called St. Mary's Hospital and went into rehab for the first time. I think I was 30, just about, it was a month, 2 months before my 33rd birthday. Because I knew, even though I needed to be, by the way, if you're heavily involved in alcohol and drugs, you just can't stop. You know, you'll have seizures and die. So get yourself to a rehab. Thank God we live in San Francisco, where there's a lot of there's no one can go without health care here. So there we go. Okay, but everything is subject to human neurosis and psychosis. It's quite proper to tremble at the sight and feel nature's beauty and power, but it is a travesty for anyone to force another to tremble at the sight of weapons and savagery. The most beneficial of things can be twisted into something dangerous and ugly. What happens then is we usually add an ism to the word. Community becomes communism. Nationality becomes nationalism. Terror becomes terrorism. Terrorism is a sacrilege, and our task is to respond by restoring the holiness of life's power. So if you care for social, they term socialism. If you're a socially minded person now, you're a socialist. Yeah, we are that Historianism. It's like caffeine, enes, anything ends in an ene. Caffeine, morphine, get rid of all the enes. Benzodrine, all kinds of enes. Well, I'm not a doctor. I can only talk about my own experience, and I'm a spiritual healer. Okay, humans are always trying to usurp the power of life for their own purposes. In the National Museum of Ireland, you can see and hear ancient and elaborate horns that were blown before battle to terrorize the enemy. And on the American plains, warriors would deck themselves with war paint before fighting to instill fright. A husband raises his voice and smashes furniture to terrorize his wife. It is tempting to respond to savage terrorism with violence that looks more civilized. We overcome our terrorism with the veneer of patriotism, piety, and justifications, but beneath all the formality, we are blowing the horns like the Celts, convincing ourselves of our innocence as we arm our weapons. Religion explains the human love of war as a misplaced and misunderstood version of the struggle with ignorance and blind passion. Many in Islam would say that fighting jihad is primarily a spiritual battle for insight and tranquility. Jesus said that he brought a sword. See, in metaphysics, in the tarot card, sword is mind. Yeah, San Antonio. I have a picture of San Antonio with the sword. Throughout, whenever you see the sword in any kind of a statue, religious statue, it's referring to the mind that cuts through and gets the cause. You get rid of the effect and get to the cause. Beliefs are just thoughts. You keep on thinking, and thoughts can be changed. Yeah, it says brought a sword, but clearly he wasn't talking about the literal fight. He also told his companion Peter to put his literal sword in its sheath. Use the mind. This is the final frontier. Jesus was Buddha, Krishna, all these dudes were astronauts of inner space. Renouncing terrorism, now this is really key here. Renouncing terrorism doesn't mean that you become passive and faint-hearted. It means that you have the imagination, the self-possession, and the strength to reconstruct terrorism as awe at the beauty and the power of life. You become a spiritual warrior. You become a spiritual warrior. You discover that it takes far more courage to transform the impulse towards justified violence and to embrace into the embrace of a supposed adversary. The real battle is to overcome self-interest and the tendency to split the world into friends and enemies, which is definitely what's going on right now. Both Jesus and the Buddha refused to participate. Well, before I go any further, I got to back up because we're in the middle of getting ready to have this huge paradigm-changing election, and right now we've got Hillary Clinton. Looks like she's going to be the Democrat. She is the Democratic choice, the only one they got, and Trump. And she said something interesting the other day at a speech. She said some good things, but she also said something that gave her away a little bit. I'm not pro or against anybody here except Trump. I'm against him, I guess. But she said, in essence, I'm paraphrasing here, but in essence, she said, "Show me your friends, I'll show you who you are." Donald Trump, meaning he has friends that are Ku Klux Klan and all these people, right-wing warmongers and all that. Well, Hillary, I've seen you hug treasonous people like Bush, Cheney, Kissinger, walking legendary war criminal. So you too have to check out what comes out of your mouth, sister woman, because if you get the presidency, which you probably, God willing, I guess if you're the only one running, basically resembles a bit of sanity. We got to deal with you, and we'll make you hold your promises about getting rid of Citizens United. So it says the real battle is to overcome the self-interest and the tendency to split the world into friends and enemies, and both of them are doing that. Both Jesus and the Buddha refused to participate in a world so divided. Jesus says, love your enemy, but the Buddha befriends the bloodthirsty criminal. These examples upset the natural urge to respond to terrorism with massive violence. But that is the nature of religion and spiritual sensibility. It offers an alternative to raw and violent passion. It sees things differently. It has a radical mission to restore human community, whether it is broken down. Yeah, whenever it is broken down. The religious spirit transforms fear into awe and violence into compassionate action. We can begin to cultivate small acts of compassionate right now. That's why in California now we have a very key election coming up with Prop 64, which is totally going to take cannabis, a healing medicine. I read a quote here from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and it says, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Well, what really matters is this cannabis 64 is a bad proposition from hell, totally lacking compassion and empathy, and a total giveaway to big corporations like Monsanto, and criminalizes it even more. Still keeps it as a narcotic. It's just wrong. It's wrong. Well, that's nothing to do with 64. It's been already. That's out of our hands. They already. So much goes on behind closed doors, but we can't let this 64. Please read before you. You cannot trust the Democratic. It used to be years ago when you got that thing in the mail from the Democratic National Committee. You just it was a no-brainer. You just went down, check. Whenever they said goes. No. They're bought and paid for now. We saw that with Debbie Wasserman Schultz got reelected. So yeah, you could get away with treason. You could rig elections, and people will just keep voting you in. I don't know why this happens. But please read that Prop 64. It's bad news. Even Bernie Sanders said if he lived in California, he'd vote against the cannabis monopoly. It's a giveaway. It's all about well, you want to keep this in mind, like the prison guard union, private prisons organizations, goes on. The list is a mile long of rogues gallery of people who have been violently, rapidly against, like almost rapid animals, hating cannabis, and now all of a sudden, and couldn't jail enough people. Now all of a sudden, these people have a change of heart, and they want to okay, all of a sudden we're on your side. No, they're just assuming that people who consume cannabis don't understand that it heals cancer. Watch my shows. There's other YouTube shows about that. So let's get through this little. It's almost done now. We just the last few paragraphs here about. It sees things differently. We begin to cultivate small acts of compassion right now. That word compassion reminded me of 64, because Prop 64, if it, God forbid, it never will, but if it should, by some horror, pass, cannabis people can't give cannabis away even. It's to be against the law, because they say right now in San Francisco, not enough cannabis dispensaries do it, but 215. See, if 64 goes back to Sacramento and tell them to work on it, then what stands now for us is 215, which is much more. It's what we're living with now. We don't want to. We're evolving. We're not going backward. This is just too hard. So they're thinking that cannabis people are just too stupid. We don't understand. Now, cannabis there's a cure for cancer. It's called cannabis. We just got to keep it legal. And yes, we're not saying us cannabis supporters are not saying there's no need for. Yes, totally, we need environmental laws to, growers can't be polluting areas and, running amok like they are now. But if they wanted that, they could have reformed. They could have done a better bill. Now, they're just testing the ignorance. They're seeing how ignorant we are, but we're not. Especially in Northern California, we take our freedom and liberties very like Harvey Milk said. It's a civil rights issue. In his last sermon, the Buddha simply held up a flower for contemplation. He is identified with the lotus flower, a delicate but tough plant that springs out of the mud. Yeah, it has a long, firm, nourishing root. The terrorist, making a gross mistake about the nature of power, instead holds a gun over his head to inspire fear, or a sword to behead people, as we've seen on TV. Our task as spiritual people is to restore the power symbolized by a flower and cure the weakness symbolized by the weapon. Yeah, and then the end with a Sufi story by Rumi that tells of a warrior who got spit in the face by a terrorist, and he says, your spit has become your spit has become the honey of our friendship." See, we never want to go down and lower ourselves to match their energy. We always want to keep our energy up. So that's Holy Terror now, and I hope you'll go out and get that and make copies for yourself. Now, while I still have your attention, a lot of, if people ask me a question once, twice, three times in the same day, well, yesterday morning, before noon, 6 or 7 people, either through the computer or on the street I confronted, said to me that they were in pain from this, or this, which reminded me that we got to talk about pain, because pain is a big thing. Pharmaceuticals, they say, are more effective, painkillers there are more effective in healing emotional pain than physical pain. And that's why we're seeing people in so much pain now. Trust is not refillable. Once it's gone, if it ever comes back, it never is the same. So we are a lot of people walking around disillusioned since we were betrayed into this. We're so war weary right now. That's another reason I don't think the warmongers are going to get in anymore. I think we're just collectively war weary. Is it 14, 15 years now? Whew. So, a lot of people see me people tell me, "Oh, Frank, I'm in pain." And then I put my hands on their heart and I feel this energy and I'll say, "Well, you have to forgive yourself, give yourself lots of kisses and say, well, I did the best I could with what I had to work with at that time, but you're not that person anymore. You're a different person." Yes, Gabby, you're not the person you were then. And also, don't own it. Whatever you're dealing with, don't own it. Like, it's not my condition. I know if you watch the pharmaceutical companies, their ads, they have one thing in common. They all say, "You've got this." Or they have people on there like kids, bald, they shave their heads and they go, "I've got this disease." Uh, oh, and they don't know what, honey, you're going to have it for a long time. Or, "I've gone through 5 bouts of chemotherapy. They heal in spite of this. This is not, they don't trust the human body to have the ability to come back from everything." So, this is Louise Hay. You can heal your life. After my, it was 86, 96. 96 is when I took a few years off because my best friend died of cancer, breast cancer. She was only 50. And that's when I decided I'm not going to be a fortune teller. I'm not going to use my gift to just, you see these people on TV, mediumship is a trap. I was going to spend the rest of my life telling stories, telling people, nobody doesn't get stuck between worlds. Everybody you love landed on their feet, and their biggest regret is they didn't enjoy life more. So, in essence, cancer is deep hurt, long-standing resentment, deep secret of grief eating away at the self, carrying hatreds. What's the use? The new thought pattern is, "I lovingly forgive and release all of the past." "I lovingly forgive and release all of the past. I choose to fill my world with joy. I love and approve of myself." Louise Hay looked right in my eyes when I was taking classes with her, and she swears that when she was told she was, had 3 days left to live, the cancer was so in every part of her body that it was pretty much hopeless and that she would be dead in 3 days. She said, "Well, when I stopped crying, I took out a mirror and I laid in bed and I looked at my image and I kept on and that's when she started doing her mirror work. Mirror has nothing to do with vanity. It has everything to do with your eyes being the window to your soul and your ability to just say to yourself, you know what, whatever, fill in the blanks. My hello, PM, Psychic Frank. I'm your best friend through eternity, and I'm helping you get through this. We're going to rally through this. After Louise Hay got healed of cancer a few years later, the cancer came back. And I've had many people call me after getting through the first bout, being in remission for a while, and they call me and they say, Frank, the cancer's back. I go, well, how do you know you've healed? How do you know you've learned a lesson unless it comes back to be repeated? And then they deal with it again, and then they're free. Healing isn't the only goal. Healing, if you just want a healing, that's you're just prolonging stuff. No, it's all about being peaceful with life and death. It's like you heal. Say you're healed from cancer, and then the rest of your life you're walking on a crate of eggs and afraid to make one. I can't do that or I'll die. I can't do this or I'll die. Don't be fearful of death. Body's very resilient. It knows where to come back. It knows how to come back from a dime. So many times I'll see people on the bus and I'll touch their back and I'll say, wow, that was a long time ago. You've been carrying around this guilt for so long, Yeah, let go of the guilt. There was something I just read here a second ago. Oh, good, Gabby just flew away. Yeah, I like what Jung said. The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Yeah, Gandhi said, courage is knowing what to fear. No, I don't want anybody who's watching this, who's dealing with cancer or anything, saying like, well, no, yeah, bad enough I got this, and now this guy's making me feel guilty about it. No, please, don't be defensive. Just realize that sometimes it means you have to just rethink God, your power of God. We got to get God, by the way, we got to get God out of government and into medicine, where it was like before 300 years ago. Yeah, something happened in 56, and then by 57, Eisenhower signed it in. Before, there was no "In God We Trust." And there's a quote here I want to leave you guys with. It's by James Madison. James Madison, where are you, James Madison? Here it is. James Madison. Yeah, I said. Here it is. The purpose. Now, James Madison said this. It's like the founding father of this, one of the founding fathers of this great country. The purpose of separation of church and state is to keep forever from these shores the ceaseless strife that has soaked the soil of Europe in blood for centuries. And what did we do after all these people, hundreds and thousands of people died? And then in 56, 57, they just threw it all out the window and put God right back in there. So what do we expect? Well, anyway, being grateful for where we are, cursing where we are now is not going to help, because what you focus on just strengthens it. We have to realize this is a healing crisis. Paradigms don't change in a second like that, except if you're in Hollywood. And what we're living through now usually ends up on the cutting room floor, but we are actually living through Yogananda. I'll leave you with a Yogananda quote, and that'll be a perfect way to end this beautiful thing, because it's all about dealing with our imperfections. Because there's a lot of people out here are going out stupider than when they first came in. Actually, infants are more bright than these people. Been on the planet 50, 60, 70 years, and they're more ignorant now than they were when they got born. Yogananda said, don't depend on death to liberate you from your imperfections. You're exactly the same after death as you were before. Nothing changes, only you give up the body. If you were a thief or a liar or a cheater before death, you don't become an angel merely by dying. Laughter's good medicine. Norman Cousins said, laughter's inner jogging. Yeah, Norman Cousins is a trip. I love that man. God bless his soul. If such were possible, then If we could become angels simply by dying, let us all go and jump onto the ocean right now, become angels at once. Whatever you have made of yourself thus far, so will you be hereafter. And when you reincarnate, you will bring that same nature with you. To change, you have to make effort. This world is a place to do it. Worry is a misuse of imagination. Worry is a dark room where negatives develop. Worry, fear, anxiety, stress, these are all toxic emotions. They strip our stomach lining. They make whatever we got worse. Laughter, part of anybody's healing regime has got to be laughter. Part of your spiritual practice has to be eat right and get movies, whatever makes you laugh. Like Norman Cousins, he lived in he went through all this in the 50s, was very well connected, best friends with the people who owned the Mayo Clinic there, and Hollywood. He was real big. He was JFK's BFFs with JFK, so he was very well connected. And he had movie friends, movie mongrels, set up a camera in his home, and he would sit there and laugh at Marx Brothers movies and stuff like that. And that was how he swears it. And it's proven today. You know, this is all theories. And I'll leave you with Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's got a YouTube video now of his book called The Biology of Belief, which means that you can, our DNA does not affect our body. Our mind affects our DNA. So, breakfast, I want to leave you too. It blows my mind how many people don't eat breakfast. Just the other day, I ran into a senior citizen, and every time I talked to him, I said, "Did you eat today?" And he, "Oh, I'm gonna." "Well, it's 3 in the afternoon, honey. The day's almost over." Every morning, what is it? A banana, a meal and a peel. I mean, who can't get a banana? What, 25 cents? There's no excuse not to. If you go to, I don't know, in San Francisco, you can get a lot of free food. If you go to like Trader Joe's and health food stores, you'd be surprised what they just put in receptacles that are very edible. So I always buy bruised when things are bad. Either the tide's in or it's out. When it's low tide, I'll buy bruised organic stuff and cook it up. Right, Gabby? Don't panic. It's organic. Yes, my darling. Well, thanks for sharing some time with me. And remember, it takes a lot of courage to stand up for fear. And God bless this Colin Patrick there. I can't say his name. Excuse me, sir. But for a young man, I think you're my hero. So is Snowden. So are all these men. I wish that even Jimmy Carter, if he was president, I believe he would pardon all these people that President Obama refuses to. Let's face it, we got ourselves a center right. We were all betrayed. Yeah, he did a lot of good, but he also betrayed us totally. I voted for the man who was going to prosecute Cheney, Bush, and Rumsfeld and Rice and all these people for lying to us. Colin Powell, they all got up there and lied to us, and look where we are now. 14 years down. 4 and 4 is 8. 8 and 8 is 16. So we've had just about 4 administrations of warmongers, on some level or another. Obama's not been any relief there. And it looks like we're going to have 8 more with Hillary coming in. But the fact is, we don't got 8 more years of Earth left if we don't really stop fracking, stop pipelines. And Mother Earth is waking up, and she's saying, "Hey, I fell asleep for a few hundred years. What the hell did you people do to me? You stripped my mountaintops. Remember we used to have mountaintops? They're leveled now because that's easier to get what's in the mountain. It's just well, I don't want to bum us all out now, but this is happening for us, not to us. I'm tired of pulling this apple cart alone. No, I'm not doing that. We're all doing it. We're all got to get on the same page now and just say but get behind this young man. We could start by that. We don't have to bond with wounds. Victims don't heal, and there's a lot of victims out there. Like whenever I see Donald Trump and all his supporters, all I see is a spiritually bankrupt man saying, "Pray for me, please. Somebody put me out of my misery." He was an abused child. When I see pictures of Hillary's daughter, Chelsea, and her husband, they own this mansion in a whole city block. New York City blocks are big. It must be exhausting for her to go from one end of the apartment to the next, and it reminded me, boy, what an abused kid. Giving your child everything they want is a sign of child abuse. So uh, anyway, they try to fill that empty hole with money, and it never works. So may the people with money get taste, and may people with taste get money. May the meek get empowered and realize how strong we are. Yeah, I mentioned the other day about the Ernest Holmes book about success and power. We'll be talking more about that. Okay, well, thank you, and stand up to holy terror. And remember, if you're conscious, there's no ordinary moments. Everything is extraordinary. Spiritual, mystical people are totally impressed, easily awed. Everything is fascinating. Life is fascinating. Just everything about life is totally fascinating, and cannabis just makes it even more fascinating. Okay, I love you. I love you. I love you. Namaste.